And we are recording. So again, thanks for being here tonight. This is the second meeting of this project, and so we're going to cover some of the same material, but we're going to do it a little bit faster and try to get you back on your way this evening. Let me share this screen. Can everybody see that slide now?
Yep.
All right, great. All right, so this is the Eisenhower Scottwood Bonita Drive project. You may remember Eisenhower and Scottwood were very recent additions to our program. Bonita, not so much. Bonita's been with us for a little while, but it's right there with these other two geographically. So this was a great opportunity to kind of throw all these together and discuss them with you. A little bit about the traffic calming program. Again, I'll go through this quickly. We covered it in the first meeting. This is a residential street program, and we really focus on physical solutions. We found that nothing slows traffic down like putting an obstacle essentially in the street and having traffic navigate that. We've got a great track record around Nashville. We're getting more every day. We're in a major push right now where a lot of these neighborhoods have been through this part of the process, and the cushions have been ordered and they're here, and we're actually installing. So I would say for the next few weeks, you're going to see probably more and more around town in neighborhoods. We do focus on street by street basis, not so much a neighborhood basis. There's reasons for that. And one of the big ones is it's helping our projects get expedited and on the ground a lot sooner. Process is just more straightforward, and we can always come back and revisit additional streets through the application process. We do try to focus on speed management, not so much volume management. We're not trying to take cars that may be cutting through some of these streets and push them anywhere. We if we can, we try to keep them and design these projects to keep traffic where it is. Just slow them down and get them to drive responsibly through neighborhoods. We always like to plug Hub Nashville. Hub Nashville is the clearinghouse for all things Metro, any request that you have, not just related to the Department of Transportation, but all departments. So it's a great first stop for logging those requests, and you can get that at hub.Nashville.gov. We talked about last time that this is very much an in-demand program. We had in this last application over 400 streets that applied just like Eisenhower and Scottwood did, and you were fortunate enough or unfortunate enough to get selected because it is a competitive process based on need as we define those through some data points. And here's what the data points look like. We look at essentially a 70-30 split. 70% of the score comes from safety criteria like speed and the number of crashes that we have documented on the street. And the other 30% is more about non-motorized travel. So a lot of people apply into the program because they just don't feel safe walking in their neighborhood on their streets. And so we recognize that. And so 30% gets to, are there sidewalks present? Is there transit service present? And things like that. Or are you close to a park, as you all are there at the end of Scottwood? Or are you close to a school also, as you are with Paragon Mills? So that neighborhood destinations category that you see there, help this neighborhood get selected. So those are the three streets we're working on that we talked about last time. You're familiar with them: Bonita, Scottwood, and Eisenhower. I think those are pretty much the all of all streets. We'll see them here. So Bonita Drive from Paragon Mills up to the park entrance, and then at that location where Scottwood starts, taking it all the way to its end, and then Eisenhower as well, a little bit separated from the other two. Just a word about process, and we'll come back to this after I show you the latest plans for the project. We're here at meeting number 2 of 2, so this is the final meeting, unless you all raise some issue and we've got major changes we need to go back and look at. And if you do, that's why we're here tonight. That's totally fine. But barring that, we will graduate from this meeting and begin the online ballot process. And that's what I'll talk a little bit more about here in just a second. And then after that balloting process, assuming it passes, we would then order the materials and go to construction. So here's the measures. Last time we showed you more of a list of measures that we use and we have in our toolbox and we use in the program. This time we'll just talk about what we are going to use, and it's our old friend, the speed cushion. We use them on probably 95% of the projects that we do here in Metro, and part of it is just because we use it so much, and it's a common tool for us, and I think that helps the understandability of it, the expectancy of it from a driver's standpoint. And so, as we see more of these coming into neighborhoods, I think people will recognize that how to drive them and why they're there and slow down accordingly. They work very well. They're known. Sometimes you may have driven over speed cushions that are actually like built in place with asphalt or concrete. We got away from that a few years ago because it wasn't always the same. It's very hard for our contractor to build any two of those things just alike. And so we've gone to this modular rubber bolt down model that works very well. It's manufactured, so we're getting the same product every single time. It's holding up very well. We've got some that have been out 10 or 15 years and still look like they're in really good shape. And so this is kind of gives you an idea of the configuration of them. Y'all are probably, I'm guessing, I don't know, this is a downside to not being in the same room. I can't see if you're nodding or not. You may be familiar with these. We have them, in neighborhoods, some neighborhoods not very far from y'all. And so anyway, you may well be familiar. That looks really tall right there. That looks like you're driving over a major obstacle. That's only about 3 inches difference from the top to the pavement surface, and then that's about 7 feet long from one end to the other. So it's not like driving over the speed bump in the Kroger parking lot. It's much more friendly than that, but at the same time, it does the job. And so we see speeds of around 15 to 20 miles an hour at the cushion device, and we space those such that we try to get 20 to 25 miles an hour continuously over the length of the road. And a lot of what I just said is there. In this application, your streets are pretty wide. We'll show that in just a second. And so I believe it's correct in all 3 streets at every location, we will be using that 3 cushion model. Just because if you give cars enough room to drive around them, I assure you they will drive around them. And sometimes they'll go to great lengths to drive around them. So we design to guard against that as well. We do avoid driveways. That's really important to us, and try to keep them as far away as we can. We look for at least 15 feet of separation there. And the other thing that comes to bear on a couple of these streets is hills and curbs, but hills mainly. You've got a couple of these streets that there's just a little short run of grade that we're trying to keep these off of. So just bear that in mind when we look at these. And here are the revised plans. Now, last time I was just looking back at what we showed you back in August when we met, and on 2 of them, we've actually added another set, and that was based on some of the comments that we got at the meeting, as well as just our infield measurements. But Bonita Drive is first up here, and there's a little bit of grade coming up off Paragon Mills, but right as we get to the top of that grade would be our first set. These yellow numbers here represent addresses. So that gives you, as best we can without showing exactly where it's going on the street, that gives a pretty good level of detail about where this will be. So if you're wondering, there's one roughly in front of 408 Bonita. I'll go ahead and say this. I think I've got another slide later. We will give you very detailed plans. So this is still kind of conceptual. We think it helps in this type of a setting to understand, but let me skip on here and show you. We already have these design plans available. If you're interested in seeing them, you can contact me now, but really coming out of this meeting, we'll be posting this online. And so you and any of your neighbors will be able to go to Nashville.gov. We're going to give you the link to do this. You can click on it and you'll be able to get our design plans at this level. So you can see exactly, like in this case, that one is 29 feet south of the driveway at 408 Bonita. So if you want to walk down on your street and actually, you know, pace it off or measure it off, you can do that. And so that's the purpose there. So there's no surprise about where these are going. But anyway, back to the concept. We have 5 steps planned on Bonita from one end to the other. And again, just looking for good separation from intersections and driveways, as well as trying to keep these at a regular spacing of about 400 to 600 feet apart. This little gap here, I think, is another downhill, if I remember right. There's some grade in there, so we couldn't quite get one in there. But anyhow, over here on the bottom right-hand corner, that's the typical layout that we'll be using. This is a 30-foot wide street, which is, we see that a lot, but it's a pretty wide street. So y'all know sometimes you have a car parked on the side of the road or what have you. This won't impinge on any of that. You can continue to park. You can park on these if you want to. And so, but just keep in mind, these are only at 5 locations, so there probably wouldn't be a need for a lot of parking on them. But anyway, that shows you they're 3 feet from the edge of pavement, and then they're 3 feet apart as they come down through there. Eisenhower is similar. This was another one where I think when we showed it last time, we only showed 2 on the interstate side of is that Linbar there? I should have that marked, but I think it's Linbar. We only had 2 on that side, but out in the field, that's a pretty long straight run there, and so we were able to get another one in that location, and as well as I think we got put another one here at the top of the hill right before this curve. Y'all probably know that's a really steep hill from Jeffrey down to Linbar there, so that's the reason for that gap. It's okay. We think that'll give us good results. You got the 2-way stop right there, so I think this will give us good results. Again, a little bit wider of a street, 26 feet, and so we just adjust accordingly to make the 3 cushions work in there. And by the way, if y'all want to make comments or questions, feel free to unmute yourself. And if you're putting stuff in the chat, I can't see it very well. Farwa can see it. She can speak up if you don't want to, but feel free to interrupt me just by talking whenever. And then the last one is Scottwood, and picking up at Bonita up here where we left off, and then running out. This one I think we actually reduced by 1 set because of some grade issues and trying to avoid it. I think the biggest run of grade, the longest run of grade, was from Bonita up toward Jesse. Anyway, I have no doubt we'll still get good results there. We've got a couple of slight curves to avoid, but I think that's going to be a good project as well. That's also a 30-foot wide street, so 3 cushions across it. And then, as I showed you, we will be giving more detailed design plans, so you can. And this is just one snapshot of one of those streets. We'll have this level of detail for all 3 projects, and you can review that. So a little bit about the balloting, and then we'll come back and chat, take questions or whatever you have. But I do want to cover this. This is really important, and one of the main reasons we want to come back to a second meeting. This is a big change. Councilwoman Johnston and I were talking before the meeting about how important this change has been, and I won't go into the details of what we used to do, but we do a ballot where we're going to send out another card like the one you got for the 2 previous meetings. This is a picture of it on the screen here. And the wording's just a little bit different, though. It says notice of online ballot, and it's got a QR code there that's going to take you to Nashville.gov, and like the picture there at the bottom, it's going to take you to our online ballot page. There will be a little code in the bottom right-hand corner that just make sure that people are voting that are supposed to be voting. That's actually the people that got the card in the mail. and it gives us the opportunity, it gives you the opportunity to vote yes or no. We didn't used to do that. So we can see, some of these do get some opposition to them, and we want to know about that. That's an important part of it as well. But the beauty of this balloting project is if people don't vote or we can't get a hold of them, we would love it if we had 100% participation, but we all know we don't have that. And so that doesn't hold a lack of participation against anybody's street. So what we do is at the end of 6 weeks, we take all the ballots that have come in. And by the way, it will be a street by street vote. Bonita will be voting for itself, Scott Wood, and Eisenhower likewise. And so we'll look at each of those individually at the end of the 6 weeks, and we'll say, well, they had X number of votes. If 66% of the people who did vote voted for it, we'll do the project. If there's more opposition than that, then we will not, and we'll kind of retool and go from there. I will say we've had really good success. If good success means doing the project, we've probably balloted probably 15 streets by now, and I think we have maybe 2 that have not passed. So the track record is pretty good for streets. When they get to this point, they're typically closing out positively. I think I covered all of that, and so 6 weeks is the time period. That's the other nice part, is it gives us a definite ending date for when this ballot process is done. A lot of people like to know who gets to vote. This is a snapshot of the people who are eligible and will receive that card in the mail. This just, for example, is Scott Wood, and so we will look at the properties immediately abutting the right of way of Scott Wood along the limits of the project. And within that, it's important to note that that's sent to the owner of those properties. So you may have a neighbor that rents their property and they won't get a card. That will go to the owner of the property and whatever address Metro has on file through the tax record. So anyway, that's how that works. If a property is vacant and we know about it, we often don't know. But if it's clearly vacant or under construction, or it's a vacant lot never been improved on, those don't get cards either. We intend this to be for occupied residential parcels. I don't think you have a lot of some neighborhoods you can imagine. Companies have bought whole swaths of land and they're building like crazy. You don't have as much of that going on in this neighborhood, but anyhow, churches and things like that are not eligible either. So the next steps after tonight, as I mentioned, assuming you all like the plan, we'll go ahead and begin that ballot process. We can probably start it inside. I put 2 to 3 weeks here. We could probably start it next week. In all honesty, it's just a matter of putting that ballot card together and sending those out. We'll have to get the plans online so that once you go to the ballot, I didn't mention this, but once you go to the ballot, there's also a place for you to click on so you can review the plans from that location as well. We want to make sure people understand what they're voting for. And then assuming it passes, we order those materials. That's taken 8 to 10 weeks to get the rubber cushions in, and then we go to install them after that. That takes another couple of weeks there. That's our contact. Gil Thomas is our program leader there at NDOT, and that's me. I'm Jeff Hammond with Birch Transportation. Feel free to reach out to one or both of us with any questions you have as we get into that ordering cushions and installation process, especially. So let me see if I may have to stop.
Can I jump
in? Please do. Go ahead.
This is Councilmember Johnston. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So I just wanted to go back to the ballot process just for a moment, because you're all going to be receiving, and your neighbors will too, the postcard in the mail. And so If you're having trouble with that, there is a number on there that you can call. I think it goes to the hub, if I can read that small print. Pretty sure it does go to the hub. And if you're still having trouble, feel free to give me a call and I can put you in touch with the right person, or you can reach directly out to Mr. Thomas or Mr. Hammond, and they can get your vote in. We just went through this process in the North Creve Hall area, and we had two streets, one street that just changes a name, so it's really the same contiguous path, but two streets, and one part of it got enough votes and the other part of it did not, and it was by one vote that they lost. And so that ballot failed. So it's so important for you to vote, whether it's yes or no, and I have no opinion on that, but it's just so important for you to vote and have your voice heard. So please make sure that when you get this in the mail, that you respond to it and help your neighbors too, because I know we have some lots of neighbors over there with some language issues, and I know we can help them at Hub, and also some elderly folks that maybe don't understand, and so I'll rely on you guys and send them to me as well. I'm happy to even come over and help them. But just letting you know how important it is to vote, because I don't want this to fail, because this really is the only measure that we have that 100% slows people down. Everything else is it's just not as effective. And so if you really want people to slow down on your streets, the speed cushions are the only way to go. So I'm pulling for you, and I'm here to help you, or answer any questions that you might need. Y'all know how to get in touch with me.
That's great. Thank you, Councilmember. What any questions from anyone? Whether it's on the
I don't see any questions in the chat for now.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. So the last meeting that we had in August, you had said that we were going to go to ballot after that. So was the plan changed, or just the balloting process changed?
Yeah, it was a process. Good memory. Yeah, and we talked about that before we got on too. We did say that, and the rules at the time were that we could do one meeting, and I clearly remember telling this group, and I told one other group that happened about the same time, that I felt we were good because we largely had consensus. You know, there were some comments about we'd like you to shift them and try to get another set in here, there, whatever, and we did that. Yeah. I didn't think it warranted a second meeting, but the process has changed. The folks there at Metro have said, you know, just for consistency and good practice, and to make sure people know about this project, and we've done everything that we can to reach out. We're going to go ahead and do 2 meetings for everybody. That's the only reason. There wasn't a big design change. It was just that process change. So good question.
Okay. So at this point, if we don't get the ballot in the mail in, well, like, I don't know, what do you think, 4 weeks or whatever, should we contact someone?
Yeah, feel free to. It's the only discussion that we've had is we don't want to start, and I don't remember what week it is. We don't want to send out any ballots such that 6 months from that date it's like Christmas Eve or something, or we don't really want one closing that week of Christmas, for instance. So we may pause a week here or there just so that when we send it out, you know, it's I'm not saying we're going to avoid everything from now to Christmas. It's not that. We just don't want, sometimes those last couple days have been getting where people want to know where they stand, very understandably. And so what Gil Thomas, who I just showed you his contact, can do is, I think he's doing one kind of update maybe at week 5 or something. So once we get close to closing and you want to know where you stand, you can reach out to Gil. He'll give you an update. He'll tell you Benita's got, 17 votes and it's an 89% pass rate. That's the information he'll give you. And then that can tell you, okay, I got 1 week. We better, either we're fine or we're right there. Like was mentioned, we're right there on the bubble. We better get out and knock some doors or get on Facebook or Nextdoor or whatever your neighborhood uses and try to get a few more yes votes because it's really close. So we don't want that to happen like the week of Christmas. So we'll adjust here or there. But aside from that, I mean, like I said, I think we can get that out pretty quickly.
Okay.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes,
Sorry,
sir,
just
go
want to
ahead.
tell you really quickly. Mr. Thomas always lets me know whenever they send out the ballots. He just shoots me an email and says, "Hey, we've sent these out." When he does that, I'll put it on social media. I'll put it on both my Facebook page and on Nextdoor. So then you can know, okay, within a week, give snail mail a week to figure that out. You should expect it, but if you don't get it by, after Thanksgiving, right after Thanksgiving, I will give me a call, give me a call and we'll figure that out. And then he also gives me that 5-week update. So I'll put that out there too, especially if it's close, to say, hey, you might want to go holler in the streets or whatever you want to do.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Well, again, we appreciate your time. We don't want to keep you any longer than you have to. I agree this was kind of a redo, so there's no sense in belaboring the point. Councilwoman, anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I'm good. Thank y'all so much for sharing part of your evening with us. I know it's a small group, but it's always important, and it's always a good opportunity for me to say hello to y'all. So have a good rest of your night.
And if you are interested in reliving the magic that is this meeting, we will be posting that recorded version of this here in the next couple of days. If you go to Metro 3, the public access channel, they have a YouTube page. You can get there. I always just Google Metro 3, go to the Metro 3 YouTube page, and it'll be on that location with all the other great video materials that Metro has out there. With that, we'll wish you a good evening. Thanks again, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, y'all.
Bye.